quiet closing shift at a Lululemon store in Maryland turned into one of the most shocking retail murders our country has ever seen. When a manager arrived the next morning, they discovered a brutal scene. One woman was dead, another tied up and claiming they had both been attacked by two unknown men. As investigators began to dig deeper, the story started to fall apart. In this episode, we'll break down this disturbing murder and the investigation that unraveled the truth of this twisted tale. As always, I'm your host, Gabbi Dee, and this is Beyond the Bonesaw. Before we open the files today, a quick but very important note. The following program discusses closed cases along with open, unsolved investigations that contain explicit content, such as murder, mental, physical, and emotional abuse, rape, offenses against children, and more. Listener discretion is highly advised. All individuals discussed are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. The views expressed by myself or my guest are based on publicly available records, authorities' archives, and our own dedicated research. As such, all theories presented are alleged. At Beyond the Bonesaw, we strive for total accuracy, but these cases are complex, and some evolve every day. If you have a correction or a piece of the puzzle we missed, our comments are always open. We have no ego here, just a drive for the truth. Now, let's get to it. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Beyond the Bonesaw. I hope that your day's going well, and that you're ready for a twisted tale, and that you're ready for a twisted tale, because this one today is pretty insane. This will actually be our first high-profile case, and I'm sure many of you have already heard about it. I'm talking about the Lululemon murder. For those who do know the case, I hope to bring you a deeper look into the events that took place there. I know it's been covered a lot in podcasts, TV shows, movie, everything. It's just been covered a crazy amount. It's a high-profile case. That being said, there's a lot of case information, recorded footage to siphon through. I'm including all of that. We're going to do a deep dive, and I'm hoping I'll have a few things that you haven't heard of yet. To those who don't know the case, take a deep breath, because this is about to get crazy. I'm talking mind-blowing, life-altering crazy. This case is insane, and there's not much nowadays. I grew up, my mom was an ID junkie. She's got all the Stephen King books, So I grew up around true crime, and there's not much that turns my stomach nowadays. But this case, It's something in itself. It's brutal, it's crazy, it's twisted, and let's dig right into it. Side note, if you also don't know what Lululemon is, it's a multinational athletic apparel retailer. They started in 1998. Their headquarters are in Vancouver, British Columbia, and here in Delaware in the United States. Lululemon is very much known for its leggings. It's kind of what makes the store stand out. And one pair sells for easily over $100. The Lululemon today we're going to be talking about is located in Bethesda, Maryland, which is just this adorable little town located in Montgomery County. Now, let's set the scene. This store is one of the many shops lining Bethesda Row, which is pretty much just a row of stores, restaurants, little suites, super cute, super small town vibes. It's very modern, it's very black and white, sidewalks line each side, there's little trees and plants, people are always walking and talking, going in and out shopping. You get the vibe. You can bounce from store to store buying a brand new iPad, and then go to another store and buy 2 pairs of leggings that cost you more than that iPad, all before having dinner at one of the many restaurants around there. Speaking of iPads, we're going back to March 11th, 2011, the day the iPad 2 was actually dropping, and there was an Apple store right next door to Lululemon. So that Apple store, before anything opened, they already had a line down the block like any other day anything from Apple drops. A ton of people waiting in line as employees of the store run around trying to get everything together. It's 8 a.m., and the store manager of this particular Lululemon, her name's Rachel, she parks and makes her way through the shopping area to go open the store for the day. She's walking past the Apple store, checking out the long line, no doubt, a key in one hand, pursed on her shoulder. So Rachel goes to unlock the door, and she realizes it's already unlocked. Maybe the night crew didn't lock up? But she knows Jayna was running that crew, so it was really odd. There's never been issues like this. There's other manager roles, so she wasn't the only one with the key. Maybe someone got there before her and just forgot to lock the door behind themselves. So she goes inside and freezes for a quick second as she takes in her surroundings. The store looks like a bull in a china shop. It's destroyed. There's clothing racks knocked over, TV on the ground, glass everywhere, leggings thrown about. And in that quick second, she could tell something happened, and she did the smart thing and went back outside. She just knew she shouldn't be in there. Something just wasn't right. And if her gut instinct wasn't enough to go on, the bloody footprints on the ground were. Rachel goes back outside, upset and flustered, obviously. It's just eating at her inside also if one of her girls were in there in trouble, and she was fighting if she should go back in or not. And then she looks over and sees this long-ass line of just people gawking at her. I'm talking about the iPad line. But she has bigger things to worry about right now, so she tried to not pay attention. Eventually, a man walked out of the line, known as Ryan Luff, and he gets a lot of props in this case, and I totally understand why. And good job, Ryan, for not just gawking at the woman and actually checking on her and making sure she's okay. So Ryan walks up to Rachel, asks if she's okay, and she explains she went in the store and it's a total mess. Things are turned over, broken, items scattered all over. And she asked, did you guys see anyone or anything? At this point, Ryan said he's been there a little over an hour and he didn't see anyone come in or out of that store. Now, Ryan is also trying to calm her down and offers to go inside with her to check it out. He walks in first as Rachel follows behind him. He notes everything tipped over, the bloody footprints, and then he gets towards the back of the store where the registers are. And all of them are open. All the registers and all the 3 safes below the registers all open and completely empty. Nothing left but a ton of receipts that are just thrown all over. Clearly a robbery, right? Maybe some clothes were missing. You can't tell right now. The store's completely destroyed. But judging by the registers, it looks like robbery was a motive. And also, where are these bloody footprints coming from? So he keeps moving and he walks towards the back of the store, which is the changing rooms, and then it goes to the employee bathroom, the stock room, and the exit. You get it. It's just a small little shop. As he goes to the back of the store, this is when he sees a ton of broken glass and tons upon tons of thick crimson blood. I'm talking a pool of blood, like a sea of blood all over the floor. Blood going 6 feet up the walls. 6 feet! That's taller than me. Blood splattered all over everything. And warning, the crime scene photos are brutal. If you're squeamish with blood, do not look them up. So Ryan's still going through the store, blood everywhere. Rachel stayed in the front. And Ryan notices this very long streak of blood through the back, a clear sign a body has been dragged. He also notices in the blood there's multiple footprints. So right now he's like, what the fuck am I seeing? It's brutal, crazy, his adrenaline's going, heart throbbing in his ears, and he's almost holding his breath as he stumbles across a bloodied body on the ground. This body was face down on the floor in a pool of their own blood, and at the time he was assuming it was a man. We find out it's a woman later, but he's just going on what he can see. And when you hear how bad this body was tortured, there's really no surprise. He mistakenly took it for another gender. He also noted that this body had a rope around its neck. Whoever it was clearly wasn't alive anymore. So Ryan knows he needs to get out of there. He's got to go. But as he turns around to go back to the front of the store and tell Rachel to call the police, he hears a light, barely audible moan. Ryan must be one of the most courageous men I've ever heard of because he went to check it out. And I can't say at this point I would have, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. He followed the sound carefully, trying to miss the bloody floor, if that's even possible at this point, and comes up upon the employee's bathroom where he found the source of the moaning. There was a small, very young, petite female with gashes all over her chest, arm, legs, stomach, a huge gash on her head. Her arms were zip-tied above her head, legs zip-tied as well, and she was in this semi-conscious state where she's barely audible. There was blood around her as well, but not nearly as much as the other body in the hall. But there was definitely enough to know this woman needed help. And then he saw it. The crotch area in her leggings was completely torn open, gone. Her underwear was torn and cut as well. Her genitals were exposed, a clear sign of sexual assault. But unlike the other body, this one was alive and clearly needed help, so he ran back to the front of the store to tell Rachel to get on the phone with 911. And he told her this isn't just a robbery, it's a murder, a sexual assault, there's another victim. I'm sure this was completely jarring to say the least. I can't even imagine what's running through his head this entire scene. It's disturbing, and there isn't much that makes me cringe nowadays, like I said, so that says a lot for even me. Now let's talk about our victims from that day. And I'm sorry if you hear grunting in the background. My dog is getting up and stretching. Also, just a side note, if you have fur babies like myself, I would absolutely love to see them. And you can see mine on our socials. And I promise they're cute and super worth it, so go check them out and give us a follow while you're there. So the victim found alive, tied up in the bathroom, that was Brittany Norwood. She was born May 18th, 1982, making her 28 years old when this happened. She was born in Seattle, Washington. Her parents' names were Earl and Larkita Norwood, and the Norwoods were a stable middle-class family. Both parents were respected and admired among their community, who often described them as generous and friendly, and it was clear they were dedicated to raising their children the exact same way. Brittany was actually one of 9 children. She had 4 brothers and 4 sisters. So Brittany, she just had 1 extra brother than myself, actually. And saying this makes me realize how crazy it all sounds. It's just a lot of babies. So her family was very stable, very well educated, and honestly, all seemed just super sweet and supportive of one another. They were a tight-knit family as well, so there was no lack of love in that home. So nowadays, the kids are obviously grown up. This took place in 2011. And some of them turned into some pretty amazing people. One became a doctor, one's a business consultant, two are engineers, so needless to say, the parents did good. In high school, Brittany was a remarkable soccer player and was known as a beautiful, athletic young woman who loved spending time with her friends and family. She would eventually graduate from high school in 2000. Not soon after, she moved to Long Island, New York to study at Stony Brook University, where she continued her soccer star legacy. After a bad breakup, Brittany moved to Washington, D.C. to live with one of her sisters, and she started working at a hotel and quickly moved up to manager, but it didn't last long, and she found herself looking for a new job shortly after. Now, Brittany, she did have a goal of opening her own gym one day, so it's no surprise she applied to a place like Lululemon, and they welcomed her with open arms as she became a sales associate at the store. When this crime took place, she was actually only working at the store for a little over 6 weeks when it happened. She was actually just about to quit and begin working as a personal trainer at another company. I believe it was called Equinox, and this crime actually took place on Friday, and her second interview for personal training was going to be 2 days after that on Monday, but she'd never show up since she was dealing with so much, obviously. Now let's discuss Jayna Troxel Murray. This is the victim who was found deceased face down in her own blood. She was born November 22nd, 1980 in Wichita, Kansas, but it wasn't long until her family was headed to Texas to lay down some roots. And she was a Texas girl through and through. She would grow up there along her loving parents, David and Phyllis, and her older brother, Hugh. She was blonde, athletic, a gorgeous woman with what everyone called a megawatt smile, and I see it truly in her photos. It just lights up a room, I can just tell. Look up any photo of Jayna Murray and you'll see it for yourself. She's just this bubbly, happy, outgoing woman, and you can really see it when you look at her. Jayna was described as an energetic sports lover who lived a healthy life. She was an animal lover who was also described as driven, outgoing, intelligent, and well-respected. Everyone said she was a natural-born leader who lived life to the fullest, and she truly did. She was 30 years old at the time of her death, and for her 30th birthday, she actually just went bungee jumping, and she's been skydiving, she's traveled all over the world. I could be wrong, but just a little snippet. There was only one country she hadn't traveled to, and sadly would never be able to. After high school, Jayna was in Spain for 2 years. She ended up going to St. Louis University. After that, she came back and stayed in Washington, D.C., where she would eventually graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree from George Washington University, all which led her to work at Lululemon, where she was a sales team leader. Now, Jayna, her skills didn't just stop there. She also was a gymnast, a ballerina, a dancer, and she was actually going to pursue dancing as her career field. But after high school, she switched and wanted to take on this more healthy journey of life. So Lululemon, just like Brittany, fit her perfectly. At the time of Jayna's death, she was also attending Johns Hopkins University, and she was gaining her Master of Communication and Master's in Business Administration. And this is also located in Washington, D.C. So she was balancing school and work, all while maintaining her healthy fitness lifestyle, and she was actually only 10 weeks away from graduating. And like I said, she was only 30 years old at the time of her very brutal death on March 11th, 2011. And at the end of this, her family would take her body back home to Texas and lay her to rest there. So back to the store. Rachel and Ryan, they're waiting for police to come, which only takes a few minutes, and they get right to work. So first, they note that there was a red toolbox on Jayna's back. Like whenever they were done and she was dead, they laid her face down in her own blood, and whoever did this just placed a toolbox on her. And just a quick side note, the toolbox did belong to the Lululemon store, so it didn't belong to whoever did this crime. Around her body, they also located 2 box cutters, a hammer, and a wrench covered in blood, which they assumed took part in the killing, but at this point, everything was soaked in blood. So they needed to figure out what was used and what was just splatter. Before we jump back into the action, I have to shout out the first ever sponsor of our show, Gabbi. If you follow me on social media, you already know I'm usually deep grinding Apex or running missions in Warframe. And when you're locking in for hours, the last thing you want is that mid-game crash. That's why I've been loving Gabbi. They're known for their jitterless energy blends, which means no crash, no weird shaky feeling, and no guilt. Just clean focus that helps you lock in and carry your squad for hours. And if you're an anime fan like me, you have to check out the Crunchyroll collab. The anime-themed shakers are insane. I've got the Chainsaw Man energy blend and the Free Run shaker on the way, and I cannot wait to show you guys. If you want to level up your setup and support the show at the same time, head to dubby.gg, that's dubby.gg, and use code BONESAW at checkout, BONESAW, for 10% off your entire order. All the info is in the show notes. Huge thanks to Dubby for believing in the pod, and a huge shout out to you guys for listening. Now, let's get back to it. Just like Brittany, the woman found in the bathroom, Jayna's pants and underwear were also split at the crotch, a sure sign of sexual assault, and as expected, Jayna's body had no pulse and she was pronounced dead at the scene. When they found Brittany in the employee's bathroom, she had a shirt tied around her neck. Not like super tight or anything, but you could tell it was implying that the shirt was used for something. Her arms were tied up, her shirt pulled up, showing gashes all over her stomach. She had rips and tears all over her legs from something sharp and a gash on her head. She was actually losing a lot of blood and taken to the hospital right away. Now, there was a Buddha statue covered in blood found near Brittany's body, implying that's probably what gave her that huge gash in the head. She was probably knocked upside the head with it, right? And all the employees said, well, that Buddha statue, it belongs in the front of the store. It doesn't even belong in the bathroom. So that also implies whoever did this brought it to the bathroom with them or tried to find something to hit her with and found that. There's also a wooden coat hanger beside her as well, and it had those like sharp ridges on each side, like the parts that hold up a tank top or a shirt from falling off. Clearly it was taken from the store as well, and that'll come into play later, so I'm just pointing that out. There was also paper towels and Windex by her, as if someone maybe began to clean it up and then stopped for some reason. Maybe they realized the amount of blood, there was no way anyone was going to hide this, especially with the limited amount of time of the store reopening. So maybe they tried to clean up and then they just left. Now, those shoe prints that Ryan saw, it was confirmed there were 2 pairs of shoes, a woman's size 5 to 6, which it could be one of the girls, right? But they also found a man's size 14 shoe. Now, the larger shoe prints did stop at a sink in the back, so officers assume maybe they cleaned the shoes off and carried them out. Maybe they plan to get rid of them. Maybe they figured they'd walk through the river of blood and then wait to get outside to put their shoes back on. Who knows? We gotta figure it out, right? There's a fire exit located at the back of the store, so there was blood leading up to it as well. And there was blood on the push bar, but absolutely no blood out back. None whatsoever. Not even a single drop of blood was outside. They thought maybe one of the girls tried to leave or pushed it to set the alarm off since it's one of those doors you don't open unless it's an emergency. But then maybe one of the assailants pulled them back inside. There's also a key in the door, so maybe they wanted to go out the door but saw someone and changed their mind. Just a reminder, this is like a suburb area, so you remember there's all those stores around, there's restaurants, people walking around, and so on. It is a shopping area. There has to be people outside. Now, this is 2011, so the entire street of stores and restaurants not having cameras isn't too surprising. I feel like that was just on the cusp of where's your CCTV? But there was one singular camera, which was at that Apple store that's right next door to Lululemon, so detectives wanted to see that footage. But first, let's check on Brittany, who was just beaten and violently raped. She went right to the hospital, she saw a doctor, they gave her some stitches just on her forehead, and she had a bad gash on the webbing of her fingers that they stitched, but that was it. Nothing else too serious. The rest of her cuts were just clean with alcohol, and that's pretty much it. She would actually go home the next day. But before any of that, the detectives wanted to question her immediately, especially while her memory was still fresh. Brittany was clearly shaken up, but she did try her best. She said around 9:45 they were finishing cleaning up the store, stocking, end of day things. If you work night shift, you know. They grabbed their belongings, they went out the door, and then they locked it up. Brittany was taking a bus, so she started to walk towards the bus stop, and Jayna went to her car to start driving home. As Brittany got to the bus stop, she noticed that she forgot her wallet, which has her Metro card in it and cash, so she couldn't catch the bus. Now, remember, Brittany had only been at Lululemon for about 6 weeks, so she didn't have many phone numbers. And she obviously needed to go back in the store to get her Metro card or cash or something to catch the bus and go home. So she started calling around to the employees' numbers she did have. She got passed around a little bit, from employee to shift lead to manager, but eventually one of them gave her Jayna's number. She called Jayna, told her the story, apologizing, I'm so sorry, I can't even go home right now, I really have no other option, can you please just meet me back at the store, I'll be so fast, I'm so sorry. Jayna was halfway home at this point, but she turned around to help her. She actually left her laptop at the store that day and was like, well, I was going to go get it tomorrow, but I'll just go back now. We can get your wallet, I'll get the laptop, and then I'll head back home. So she drives back as Brittany walks to meet her at the store. Jayna parks her car. She actually parks in a no parking zone out front because, why not? It's late, they'll be in and out. I feel like we've all probably parked in front of a store or something like that, even if it's just a couple minutes, so you get it. Jayna goes in, she gets her laptop. They get there, she unlocks the door. She doesn't turn on the lights or lock the door behind her. She's just going in, grabbing her laptop. Brittany's going to go in, grab her wallet, and that's that. At this point, Jayna's waiting in the front of the store because it did sound like Brittany knew where her wallet was, so she thought she'd just be in and out just like she was. But Brittany was taking too long, so she went back to find Brittany and see what's the holdup. After a while, they couldn't find her wallet. Jayna said, look, we aren't finding it tonight, and I do have to go. It's getting late. Just take my Metro card so you can make it home and give it back to me tomorrow. Brittany was super grateful and took her Metro card as they headed out the front door. Jayna's walking in front of her, and as they're leaving, 2 men show up and let themselves in the unlocked front door. They both were dressed head to toe in black. Black clothes, black shoes, black gloves. They even had black masks on. One had a black book bag, just terrifying. Brittany said one was really tall. He had to be over 6 feet. The other was shorter, probably like 5'3", 5'4", but she couldn't identify anything else. The only other thing she said is that she could tell they were white because of how they talked. For now, we're just going to refer to the men as the tall one and the short one, since that's all we got. She said that the tall one punched Jayna in the head, and the short one grabbed Brittany behind her hair, holding a knife to her as they were both dragged to the back of the store. And pretty much each one of the men stuck with that woman. Like the tall one was with Jayna and the short one was with Brittany. So the short one drags Brittany into the bathroom, and the whole time he's grabbing her by her hair, calling her a dirty bitch, a dirty whore. Brittany's also black, and they were calling her the N-word and just being misogynistic, racist, degrading pieces of shit. Now he drags Brittany out of the bathroom and back out front, and they're asking the woman where the money is. I feel like I said that so weird. They're asking the woman where the money is. The short one ends up getting Brittany to open the 3 safes under the registers and makes her shove the money into his book bag. I didn't see anything stated on who opened the registers themselves, but that's besides the point. So the short one grabs Brittany again and drags her back into the bathroom, and that's where she's raped by him on the bathroom floor. And during it, he was saying things like, "I've never been with a black woman," but in more degrading racist terms, you can pretty much guess. I'm just not going to repeat it. "I've never put my penis in a black woman, but whatever." Just nasty shit. He started to cut into her stomach, telling her to shut up or she'll never have kids, insinuating he'd shove the knife inside her. Then he went out of the bathroom, and Brittany just sat there for a minute, listening to Jayna's screams, knowing she was going through a similar fate and she could not help her friend. Then the short man comes back in the bathroom with that wooden coat hanger and assaults her with it. During the assault with the coat hanger, he told her he wouldn't stop until she enjoyed it and climaxed. Then he hit her in the head and she began to black out. She said during this, she heard Jayna just screaming bloody murder, literally. She was zip-tied and saw the tall guy drag Jayna's body from the hallway, and through the night, her screams, they got lower and lower, and she heard them less and less until not at all. She commented on how there was just blood all over the place, so much blood. She's breaking down, understandably, to the detectives. She's a wreck. And she keeps asking, "Where's Jayna? Is she okay? Where is she? Where's my friend?" There's a point she's sobbing so bad the detectives can't even understand her. And she keeps saying it's her fault because she forgot her wallet. They wouldn't have even gone back to the store if it wasn't for her. The detectives try to console her. "This isn't your fault. You forgot your wallet. Everyone does it. Some people do it every day. The 2 men who did this, that's whose fault it is, not yours." Now we're going to go over Jayna's autopsy. It's brutal, to say the least. It is very intense, very brutal, so fair warning. Her autopsy would confirm that Jayna had 331 wounds covering her body. 331. And this isn't even counting the wounds that overlapped each other. If you cut in the same spot over and over again, it's going to ruin the flesh to the point where you can't make out the marks. You know something's there, obviously, but you can't tell, okay, this is 20 lashes in the same spot, because it's just mangled flesh. So out of her body, she had a ton of scars, obviously, that overlapped each other, but they could decipher 331 of those wounds. So that does mean she had more than that. Her face and neck alone had 200 of those wounds. It was stated that her face was demolished. Her skull was fractured not 1, not 2, but in 13 places. She had stab wounds, wounds from beatings, cuttings. She had 105 self-defense wounds, showing that she fought until the very end. A forensic analyst who had done over 3,000 cases at this point said they had never seen anyone with that many defensive wounds. She also stated that Jayna was alive up until the last blow. So those 331 wounds plus, because we're certain there was more than that, she was alive for every single one. She was awake for it all, right up until she died. This wasn't like a fight and pass out scenario where she's getting tortured, passes out, wakes back up. She was alive and alert through all of it. It also was determined the final blow would come from a 3.5-inch deep stab to the back of her head that severed her spinal cord, killing her instantly. The items confirmed were a hammer, the rope around her neck, razor blade, wrench, 2 box cutters, serrated knives, and a metal rod. Jayna even had clumps of hair in her hand, like she just yanked out her own hair in a panic-induced state. So at this point, the detectives are shook. They know they need to look into these men, and they need to get to Apple right away to look at any footage. So they go to Apple, not to just look at footage, but obviously ask the employees, like, was anyone there that night? What time were you here till? Did you guys hear anything? And the night of the incident, an employee named Jane, a manager named Ricardo, and a security guard were in the store. And this is the sad part. The Apple Store employees heard all of it, if not most of it. Inside the Apple Store that Friday night, employees were nearing the end of their shift. It was a little after 10 p.m., less than an hour to go before they could actually clock out and head home. And then the employee heard it first. It sounded like normal closing noise coming from the neighboring store, Lululemon. Maybe boxes being moved, chairs scraping the floor, clothing racks being dragged out from the back room. The store was popular and late night restocking wasn't unusual. But the sounds didn't stop. Before we get back into the case, I want to take a moment to shout out the first ever sponsor of the show, Gabbi. If you listen to us, you probably know most of my research happens late at night. We're talking deep dives at midnight, open tabs everywhere, timelines, court documents, police reports, the kind of rabbit hole where suddenly I blink and it's 3 a.m. That's where Gabbi comes in. Their jitterless energy blends mean no crash, no shaky hands, and no foggy brain. Just clean focus that actually lasts. It helps me stay locked in while researching cases or recording long sessions without burning out halfway through. And honestly, I love that I don't feel gross afterwards. No guilt, no wired feeling, just steady energy when I need it most. If you want to support the show and stay sharp during your own late night deep dives, head over to gabbi.gg. That's DUBBY.gg and use code BONESAW at checkout. That's BONESAW for 10% off your entire order. Huge thanks to Gabbi for supporting the pod, and a huge thanks to you guys for listening. Now, let's get back to it. The scraping quickly turned into heavy thuds, then something sharper, a high-pitched squeal maybe. One of the employees stopped what they were doing. Something about it just didn't feel right, so they did go for help. They notified the manager and security, and both of them came over to listen. Together, they stood near the shared wall between the two stores. And as they listened closely, they could make out a concerning scene unfolding. One female voice sounded panicked. "Talk to me, don't do this, what's going on?" Then suddenly a scream. For a moment, everyone froze. Then another voice cried out. They couldn't tell if it was the same voice from before or another woman saying, "God help me, please help me," but the noise echoed through the wall. Eventually, the security guard or manager would pound on the wall like an annoyed neighbor, and the sound stopped. At 11 p.m., the Apple employees finished their shift and left for the night. They assumed the yelling and fighting had been employee drama or girls getting into a physical fight. In the end, the Apple Store employees would be on stand to testify as witnesses, and it was so bad that even the judge basically said they should be ashamed of doing nothing at all, and that it should haunt them for the rest of their lives. Now for the camera footage. When viewing the cameras, the detective is sitting there, and almost right away, they see them. One super tall white guy and one short white guy around 10 p.m. the night of the murder, leaving from the direction of Lululemon. Now, the camera doesn't show the storefront, so we can't see them walk in and out of the store or anything like that. It's a sidewalk view, but we can tell they're coming from the direction of the store. We see two guys wearing black beanies, like the ones you could pull down that make a mask over your head. They're wearing full black, and one even has a black backpack on. However, no view of their faces whatsoever, but detectives are pretty sure this is them, and we need to figure out how to get them. Now the officers ask the Apple employees, have you guys seen these men before? They say no, so the cops plan a good old stakeout. They wait near the store, and right away, there they are, around 10 p.m., the same time, the same place after they committed the crime. They're there, and the cops jump and grab them both. Bring them back to the station and start questioning them. Who are you? Where were you March 11th? Why were you walking this road at this exact time of night? The young men were shook to say the least. They both confirmed, hey, we work at this restaurant nearby. We walk this route home every day. That's why we're heading in that direction, because we both live that way. And the restaurant closed, and we walk home. Their alibi was checked, and they were fully ruled out and at work the night of the crime. Which brings us back to square one. And also, how terrifying for those poor young guys, just being yanked up after work from officers waiting in the dark who then accuse you of murder. And they work in that shopping center, so I'm sure they heard of the murder. I would just be terrified. My IBS couldn't handle it. So after Detective Dimitri looks at the rest of the evidence, the size 14 men's shoe, which we find more about later, but right now he has nothing to go on, the red toolbox found on Jayna's back, and the fact no items were brought in to do the crime, the items used were already in the store and belonged to the store, which does say a lot in cases. Usually that this wasn't planned, crime of passion sort of thing. But no matter what, Detective Dimitri knew this was very, very personal. Now, what about the car? Remember Jayna's car that she parked illegally in a no-park zone outside the store? Where did that car go? Where was it? Was it there? Did the cops seize it? What's up with this car? Well, the car wasn't there. Maybe the guys took it after the crime. And that's when an officer remembers driving by Jayna's car. It was noted as standing out due to her having Texas plates, so the officer knew he passed the car that night and saw a woman parked on the side of the road in it with the lights on, just sitting there. And he didn't think anything about it, But an hour or so later, he drove by again. This officer was just making his rounds pretty much, and the car was still there, lights off this time, no one inside. So they go back to where he saw the car, and it was still there. It was confirmed this was Jayna's car, just by off a license plate scan, honestly. So they bring the car back, they do forensics, all that good stuff. They find a hat in the back seat and little drops of blood all over the front driver's seat of the car. They test both, and the items came back to Brittany. But it was Jayna's car. Why was Brittany's blood in it? Why was her hat in it? So they talk to Brittany and they ask her, have you ever been in Jayna's car? And Brittany, she says no right away. I haven't been in her car. I don't even know what she drives. So you've never been in her car? Never, not once. I'm positively certain I've never been in her vehicle. So at this point, she leaves a bad taste in Detective Dimitri's mouth. He's getting suspicious of Brittany. And he told his wife one day, hon, I have to be careful. I have no idea what to do, but I think I know who did this. Who killed Jayna, but he also knew if he accused a survivor of a brutal sexual assault and was wrong, he could lose everything. His job, his community. He had to tread carefully. But he followed his gut, and we will figure out next week if he cracked open this case or destroyed the rest of his life. That's right, guys. This is our first two-parter, whoop, whoop, which I am super excited about. We're going to unravel a whole can of worms the next episode. But if you don't want to wait until next week for the next episode, you can actually get early access now because the Beyond the Bonesaw Patreon is officially live. I'm really excited to finally launch it. Subscriptions range from $5 to $20 a month. And over there, you'll find bonus episodes that'll only be available on Patreon and to Patreon members. All episodes are ad-free, and you'll get early access to any future cases. If you don't want to subscribe to Patreon, no worries. The episode will be out next Friday on all other platforms. If it does sound interesting to you, check us out at patreon.com/bonesawpod, or just look us up on the Patreon app. We'd be under Beyond the Bonesaw. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at bonesawpod. Send case ideas to us at beyondthebonesaw@gmail.com. And lastly, if you like the show, please leave us 5 stars. It helps grow the show, and it's free, so really, why not? I'm your host, Gabbi Dee, and I'll see you for part 2 next week on Beyond the Bonesaw. Unless you subscribe to Patreon, you can get it right now. Okay, bye.